10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Waterloo sunset, they are in paradise.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good golly, Miss Molly. Welcome to It's Only Talk and Roll, the show where we celebrate the music we love and we keep alive the classic rock of the past. I would like to, before I do my opening monologue, I would like to welcome the man who was the subject of the song Lola, Alan Granny Grange, otherwise known as Alfie Noakes.
Stop it.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm great. I'm very happy to jump on at last minute. Hope I can add some spice to the tale.
Oh no, I'm glad you're here, mate. As a fellow Brit, obviously the Kinks were a much bigger deal in Britain over the years than in America till perhaps the 80s. But so you may know what I'm talking about. This is it's a self-indulgent show for me today because it's all about me and I love the Kinks. So I just want to talk to you about the Kinks. I don't care if there's one person listening or 100 people. What a great band!
That intro got me. I tell you, there's some fantastic stuff on there, and that You Really Got Me still is incredible.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that for sure. And the intro, I actually feel really it's terrible because I feel really emotional when I listen to these songs now.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Waterloo Sunset always gets me a little homesick.
I was listening to a lot of it over the last few days, and there was tears in my eyes at various times.
No, they've got that.
Yeah. I'd also like to welcome our great friend John Wolfen. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Hope everyone else is doing fine.
Yeah, me too. I hope you're all wonderful. We'll just catch up with everyone in the chat in a minute, but I want to do, because it took me ages to write, so I'm going to do my monologue whether you like it or not.
We like.
So in today's show, we're going to take you on a journey through one of the most iconic and influential bands of the 20th century. That's right, it's the Kinks. I am your host, not me. I am your host, that 70s rock fan, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about this most beloved band of all time, from the British invasion era through the swinging 60s up to the concept albums of the 70s and then the arena rock days of the 80s. The Kinks have got a 60-year legacy of rock music that continues to resonate with generations of fans. When I look at those concerts they did in the 70s and 80s, it was all young people in there at the time, not the 60s guys like me. Well, I was the age of the guys that were in the crowd then, but it was all young people. So they've appealed over generation to generation. For those that are new to the Kinks, they're a legendary British rock band formed by the Davies brothers, Ray and Dave, back in the very early 1960s. They had a very distinct sound, countless unique hits, and they've been dubbed many things in their time, like the godfathers of Britpop and the inventors of the hard rock riff, and you name it. They've got a whole bunch of nicknames, but they've influenced countless artists, and to me, they've shaped the course of rock history, unlike very few bands. We're going to explore the classics like You Really Got Me, and a track that invented the heavy rock riff and then set the stage for a whole rock revolution and then songs like Sunny Afternoon, Waterloo Sunset, and Lola, the one all about Alfie underneath here, with their signature wit and their musical prowess. But it isn't just about the hits. We're going to look at the band's evolution from their garage or garage rock, as you like to say in America, garage rock origins, to their ventures into the theatrical rock opera and concept albums. And they really weren't afraid to push their musical boundaries. And their influence is way bigger than their chart statistics would suggest, although they had a few big hits in their day. And we may even just touch upon the legendary sibling rivalry between the brothers.
Just a bit.
And indeed between Dave and drummer Mick Avory, which involved full-scale fights on stage with drum kits being thrown all over the place. People talk about the Who, the Kinks were equally as incendiary. They used to pretend it was part of their act, though, when they were about to get arrested by the police. No, this is part of the act. And we're going to talk about that kind of roller coaster career they had that took them from chart topping glory to full musical artistic expression. So make sure you hit the like button, please, and share out this stream as we unravel the story of the Kinks, one legendary riff at a time. I like that line. I'm proud of that line.
Yep.
Get ready to turn up the volume and let the music of the Kinks transport you back to the era of rebellion, innovation, and rock and roll magic. So today it's the Kinks. What a band.
Yeah.
I am so happy to be doing this. Just before we start to talk about the band and its history and some of the great records, and obviously, Granny, you were alive when many of these records were released. I was alive, I just can't remember.
I was alive, not now.
That's right, not now, not anymore.
Let's check. Avatar. I'm an avatar.
You're an avatar. You're just you're like a holographic 3D representation simulation of
incredible
a human being.
Technology.
It is. I would like to say hello to everybody in the chat that's here, and there's quite a few people here already. Yeah. So the wonderful FKCH 2005 is here, talking about Australia, which, as we all know, isn't a real place. It doesn't really exist, even though Granny's toured there many times.
Oh, yes.
Everything wants to kill you in Australia.
That's right, even the Aussies. Roman of the Empire, our great friend. Good to see you, buddy. Salty Traveling. See, Salty, if you want to join the stream, just let me know and I'll send you the link, because I know you're a music man and you might enjoy this. Our great wrench friend, our buddy D. Bud Martin, good to see you. Courtney, who will be joining us whenever she's back in the house in 20-25 minutes. Looking forward to that, because I know Courtney knows a lot about this band too, particularly from their 80s era when they inspired a lot of punk bands, amongst others. A lot of punks were into them. Our great friend and brother Darius Munchausen, who hopefully will join us too, even if it's just a shit talk. And we got some super thingies already. So a $199 sticker, super sticker from Salty Traveling Sea in the shape of a microphone. What will we do with that microphone? I don't know. So let's give him a clip.
It's a first-time welcome now for that top four with their top hit, You Really Got Me Going, the Kinks.
Girl, you really got me going. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing.
And we will be talking about that more very soon. Shivers, chills. That was for a show called The Beat Club. I'm too young to remember that show.
That was in Germany, wasn't it?
Was that the German one, The Beat Club?
Foreign
It sounded like a British, maybe he just had a very English accent. Darius also super thingy does, and I'm looking for it right now, Darius. Oh, and the great Davina is here, Davina Duckworth, Lord Thoth, our hoser buddy.
Oh, good God.
Hey, over here for donuts. Don't listen to him, eh? He's a hoser.
Hoser, eh?
Glad that worked. Otherwise, you'd be sitting there going, "What is he doing?" Andy Morrow is here. I gotta scroll back and find Darius says it was before Salty's. Jacob Ironside. I don't know if I mentioned Jacob's here. Good to see you, buddy. The Kinks and Slade wrote the only good Christmas rock songs. I'm going to talk about that too. The Kinks' Father Christmas, one of the greatest Christmas songs ever. Here it is. So our great friend Darius Munchausen, there it is. $3 from Darius. Hands doing the sign of the horns with sparkles around. Absolutely rock on. I've got to give you a video clip too then, and I can't use the Kinks one again. I got to do another one. I think this one. The great Bernie Carlos.
The most athletic and in shape drummer ever.
That's right. Cigarette hanging out.
Cigarette. Beer belly.
Yeah, let me get this off the screen. There we go. So yeah, let's get to the Kinks. So I decided to do something. I had another plan, and I decided to do something on the Kinks because recently John Gosling, their keyboard player in the 1970s, so all the great concept albums they made, recently passed away. Here he is doing his best Jeff Lynne impression.
That's how we all looked in 1971.
That's right. So R.I.P. to John Gosling. I never got the chance to see him live. It was Ian Gibbons was the keyboard player when I saw them. But he made a great contribution. First track he ever played on was Lola. So he started off with a #1 hit. So you can't get better than that. So R.I.P. to him. So I thought, let's do a stream on the Kinks. It's their 60th anniversary year. And the band is doing a lot of stuff to celebrate that with various reissues, re-releases. Their YouTube page is brilliant. They've got a lot of really good repackaged playlists of stuff. They've got a lot of Kinks 60 years thing going on Twitter. They're even talking once again about a reunion of Mick, Dave, and Ray. But the last I heard was Ray saying, well, we'll probably just do it in the pub. So they may not get to a full-fledged reunion. I mean, let's face it, they've all got their problems these days, health-wise. They still perform a little bit. But you never know. They might at least appear sitting in a pub in Muswell Hill drinking, which would be something of a reunion, I think. So I thought, great idea to look back in this band that's been around literally the entirety of my life. I think their first single, which was a cover of Long Tall Sally, was released in February 1963 when I was born. So you be the judge if that's a coincidence or not. You'll probably remember that, of course. Granny, you'll remember that. You'll remember the early Kinks.
Oh, absolutely. They were one of those bands. I mean, I'm of that generation. Despite my impeccable flesh tones and dark hair, I'm an old goat. So I was 15 when I first heard of the Kinks, and probably the first thing I heard would have been "You Really Got Me," because I lived up north. There was very little television and radio exposure of these kind of bands.
Yeah.
So they were just like a blast out of nowhere. That raw sound, "You Really Got Me," and it's still probably one of the best, if not the best, riffs going. But they represented all that rebellion as well. There was that. I used to mimic Dave Davies. I used to grow my hair so it would flick up in those little corner bits, and I used to wear a white polo neck sweater.
Yeah, he had one of the longest haircuts around, even in the 64, 63,
time,
64.
it was long,
yeah, longer than the Beatles or the Who or any of those guys. He had really long hair, and they did have an anarchic air about them.
Yeah, it was just that they came on television. I mean, I've got a little diary here from 1965. And in between train spotting notes, I mentioned all the times they played on Ready, Steady, Go, Thank You, Lucky Stars, Top of the Pops, and there was always something you wanted to run home to watch.
Indeed, if only they'd had television in Hartlepool, then you had to watch it on Telegram. You had to watch it by Telegram.
We used to get it by smoke signal.
That's right. Morse
Semaphore
code.
signal. Like semaphore signal.
Just kidding, mate. Well, it must have been very exciting. I in some ways, I'm obviously glad I'm not old like you, but I mean, older like you. But on the other hand, I would love to have experienced that stuff firsthand instead of looking back from 10 years after.
Well, like the Beatles and the Stones, it was automatic. You would like them because that was like they were the brand new thing. But there was something a little bit edgier about the Kinks. And especially my dad couldn't stand them, so that made them heroes.
Oh, my parents hated them. They could barely tolerate the Beatles, but the Kinks were right out, and the Who, forget it. Yeah. But the first, so Lindsay, Cynical Geek, is here. First Kinks song I heard was "Come Dancing" when I saw the video on MTV back in the day. I had no idea at the time they'd been around since the '60s. I just thought it was a rockin' tune. Well, that's a similar. Monkey smoke signals. Yeah, that's a similar monkey smoke signals going SOS. That's a similar experience to me because my little sister, when that song was out, said, "Oh, that's a great new band." I said, "New?" And then she heard "You Really Got Me," and I said that was out in '64. And Commander Headstreaker of Shadow is here. Yes, we're going to talk about that American tour debacle of '65, which kind of derailed their American success, and they could have been bigger. But in British terms, we always think of the big four: the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, and the Kinks. They were always in that conversation because they, at the time, especially through the 60s, they were almost as big. Maybe not quite as many, number ones, but they were huge on the scene in Britain through the 60s and very influential too. And all these bands were different. I find, the Beatles are different from the Stones, were different from the Who, and the Kinks too were unique. There's no cookie cutter band from that.
But the underlying thing was R&B influence, because the Beatles' first albums are full of covers of the gospel and the girl singers, and the Stones was Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley. And bands like the Kinks and the Who, they always in their set put in blues or R&B material, always. So that was the undercurrent. It was new to us completely. We didn't have anything like it in British teenage life, like syncopated beats like Bo Diddley. My God, that was pretty. That was something else. You just didn't hear that until those bands came along.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit about the origins of the band. I want to see if I can find a layout where this is a little smaller. I might have to live with it. So John Gosling, I should mention at this point that also Ian Gibbons, the keyboard player through the 80s, when I saw them live multiple times, also passed away 2019, RIP to him. And also, very sadly, because I love this guy's bass playing, John Rodford in that era was also the bass player, and he sadly passed 2018. We will talk about Pete Quaife, of course, because he's no longer with us in a few minutes. But yeah, I love these old pictures of them, and there's a lot of great photographs of them, but not so much video material online. There's not nearly as much as the Beatles and so on. There's some select performances, and there's not such a lot of bootleg stuff. But there's a great picture with Dave with his flying V. Yeah, also fairly unique at the time. Ray Davies, of course, is the Sir Raymond Douglas Davies, because he got knighted recently. Songwriter, lead singer, rhythm and guitarist, born in 1944 in North London, very near Muswell Hill, which is the area that's associated with him. And that will pop up in their career a number of times, including an album. He was the 7th of 8 children. Dave was the youngest, 8 of 8, and all the others were girls. So that's a hell of an upbringing.
Quite a household.
That's quite a household. He attended the same school in Muswell Hill as Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart was briefly in the Ray Davies quartet before the Kinks and may have ended up as the Kinks singer. But it didn't work out, but they certainly know each other pretty well. Here he is when he lost his leg.
Yeah.
But that's,
Tragic gardening accident.
Yeah. This is him doing what most British musicians and roadies do while drinking. With Heineken, I think that's foreign brew. But yeah, he got his first guitar. It was a birthday gift from his eldest sister, Renee, who died at 31 from a heart attack the day before Ray's 13th birthday. And she gave him his first guitar. She actually died out dancing at the Lyceum Ballroom in the Strand. She had a heart attack. And that featured in multiple songs over the years, and he really adored her. She's Come Dancing is about her.
Yeah.
You know, come on, sister, have yourself a ball, or whatever. It's all about her. And Waterloo Sunset, he says, is really about her, not about Terry and Julian or whatever. It's about her. So she features in See My Friends, again, is about her death. So that affected him quite a lot. But she gave him his first guitar. He's still performing to this day in various lineups. Looking suspiciously ginger there.
Yeah. The lighting. It's the lighting.
Yeah, the lighting. So his younger brother Dave, the youngest of 8, the anarchic, crazy man that he is, and I love him to death. I've got a collection of his solo albums. I absolutely love Dave as a guitar player. He's proto-guitar hero. Like, there wasn't guitar heroes then in '64 like we have now with the Hendrix and Clapton and so on before that. Dave was one of the first. He was a guitar god before it was a thing.
Well, you know, another thing on that is the TV producers and record producers were trying to keep everything short. So for somebody to actually get a guitar solo on television, it was pretty amazing, and he did a couple.
He did, and he shredded it. He was a shredder, you know, an early shredder. So, you know, great with the heavy riffs and the power chords. He's also a singer and songwriter as well. He was born in 1947, last kid of 8, an early guitar god. He pioneered distortion, power chords, shredding solos, and some sitar-like sounds on certain songs. He was also an experimenter. He's known for the hard, heavy stuff, but he's a really tasteful guitar player when you look at the later material. So, hail to Dave, who liked one of my tweets yesterday. So, good one. Hey, my claim to fame. I've met his brother, Ray. But, this is a picture of him that my wife has kept since the 1960s when she was a little girl in a scrapbook she had of all her pop stars. And she went and dug it out for me yesterday. And this is the one that he liked when I sent it to his Twitter account. It's from Fab magazine. And he was a handsome guy. He was a good-looking guy. I can see when the girls were keen on him. And some of the boys, too, apparently, if you listen to the words of the songs.
And if you read his book.
Yeah. Well, as Danny said, yeah, you've got the book, yeah. Hang on, let me, that's Dave's book, yeah. Kink. Yeah, I've got, we'll show and tell now, because there'll be show and tell later of others. I've got Ray's book, X-Ray, and he signed it for me when I had a beer with him at the Edinburgh Festival.
Nice.
And we had a chat, and it was lovely. I was so nervous before I went up to him, but it was great. So Dave, great guy, love him. So we mentioned Pete Quaife. There's a great The Flying V, love it. And look at those glasses.
The specs.
Darius, I get emotional when I hear Come Dancing or Waterloo Sunset or any of those songs because they actually do mean something to Ray when he wrote them, and the emotion is in there. He's such a great poet. We'll talk about that later when we get to some of the key songs. We're never going to do justice to the entire band's career here, so I'm going to hit some high points and some bits that I like. You could do 10 shows on them, if really. I love this picture. Classic sort of mid to late 60s, Flying V, long hair, kind of a dandy. He liked his clothes. Great picture. Now, Pete Quaife was the original bass player right from the start when the band formed before they were even known as the Kinks. He knew Ray and Dave very well. born Peter Alexander Greenlaw Quaife in 1943 in Devon, but then moved to London. He was with the band till 1969 when he'd had enough of the business, left, moved to Ontario in Canada, and became a graphic artist, which he was seemingly very happy at. And apart from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and one or two other gigs that he did in Toronto where he met up with them, he played in one of his own bands, but he never played with the Kinks much ever after that. Passed away in 2010. So RIP to Pete Quaife, the original bass player. We'd probably still be playing with him today if he hadn't got tired of the fighting.
Yeah.
Now, after he died, just after he died, Ray was playing Glastonbury. It's a really great video if you watch it on YouTube. I can't play it on here. Waterloo. He did Waterloo Sunset and Days, amongst other songs in the set, and he dedicated them to Pete Quaife, who died like a week before. And he was actually crying when he was singing Days. He was choking up. He was going like this and whatever. It's a very touching moment. And I urge everyone to go look at it. It's so R.I.P. Pete. The sensible one in the band, apparently. And then there's Mick Avory, who thankfully is still with us, drummer Mick Avory. He was joined in 1964, just as they got really going as the Kinks, and left in 1984 after a good 20-year run. He still continued to manage managing their Conch studios that they own, but he left because him and Dave were just at each other for 20 years. Like constant fighting. Their fighting on stage was legendary. They would Mick beat Dave up with a cymbal and was going to get arrested until they protested it was part of the act. And it wasn't part of the act. They were beating the crap out of each other. For some reason, they were like, it was bad enough Ray and Dave, but Dave and Mick were even worse. Eventually, I think in 1984, he tired of it. They all tired of it. And he was a great friend of Ray's, though. They got on really well. You see them together quite a bit. But yeah, that's what
being with a band on tour, it's a pressure cooker.
Yeah,
and small things can just fester away, and it's like, I suppose, like being in the army, there was always one squad he would get like picked on, and
yeah, I guess so. And
you just will out.
I think they could both hold their own, but I think Mick was a bit tougher at the end of the day. But sorry, Dave, if you're listening to this, maybe I'm wrong. So if you don't look closely at this picture, he's got Dave's head on he's cut it off and he has put it on the drum.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the incident that they were talking about with the cymbal.
I love it.
Yeah, great. There's such great photographs of these guys. But look at Dave's here, just incredible. And there is this a few years ago, but not that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, still playing away there. I think that was in the Cast-Off Kinks, which is a collection of ex-Kinks, which Ray actually played with a couple of times. It's quite funny.
I love that.
Yeah, so the band formed in, it was various lineups in the early 60s, but it was always Ray and Dave, and then pretty quickly Pete Quaife. In 1961, they formed the Ray Davies Quartet. In 63, they changed their name to the Ramrods, and then to the Ravens. Larry Page became their manager, one of their three managers, and they came to regret that in a couple of years. Larry Page. We'll get to that when we get to 65. US producer Shel Talmy began working with them on a contract. You worked with the Who as well. So a lot of Kinks stuff and a lot of early Who stuff is produced by Shel Talmy. Mick Avory joined when they became the Kinks. They signed to Pi Records. And in January 64, they entered the studio, and the rest is history. So, this is Muswell Hill, the area they're from. This is the picture from the inner sleeve of the gatefold of the Muswell Hill album. Typical London, North London streets with lots of pubs and little stores, local stores, and that's they always had a deep affinity for that area. This is a great picture of them, I think, on Ready Steady Go.
It is, yeah, it is.
Yeah, RSG. Look how tight they are into the cameras with the stage there. Great picture though. They're wigging out, as they used to say. Sorry for those just listening to this, you can't see these, but and another one from RSG as well, where they were fixtures on the show for many years, along with other top shows of the time. I say, along with the Beatles, Stones, and the Who, it was always the Kinks were always right up there. So I head into the studio with Shell Talmy, and then a couple of songs that weren't hits. There's a couple of singles that were not hits. Cover of Long Tall Sally, which of course everybody and their cousin did, including McCartney sings the best cover of that. And he's a great little Richard McCartney. And then another one called You Still Want Me, which, they kind of looked like this in that era. This is a re-release of that. So they didn't do much, but then in August 1964, with the threat from Pi Records that they better do something that's a hit soon or else they're in deep shit, the magic happened. They went into the studio and they recorded a little number called You Really Got Me. And for whatever reason, the formula worked. They nailed it. This hard rock garage band freak out rave number based on an old R&B sound, but with so much change in that you wouldn't know it, became a massive worldwide hit, and the rest is history. Now, I know we played it earlier. We're going to play this. This is as little a clip as I could get away with without getting copyright struck.
It's a first-time welcome now for that top four with their top hit, You Really Got Me Going, the Kinks.
Girl, you really got me going. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing.
So, just that opening is...
It's a pulse, such a strong pulse to it.
Yeah, it's the riff that launched 1,000 bands. That gritty, pounding, loud sound, the distorted guitar riff, which the story to this day by Dave is that he had a little shitty speaker, I don't know, monitor speaker, and he'd slice the cone with a razor blade to make it go like that. And it sounded really good. And he said, well, I'm going to use that. He wanted a rougher sound. He just couldn't get it. And it worked because they created the hard rock riff blueprint.
Yeah, and a year later, you could buy a little foot pedal fuzzbox.
Yeah. Then they can and he still had a knackered speaker. So what can you do?
Yeah.
That just, I mean, even to this day, that riff, if you play it loud enough, it just blows you away. And that's 1964. I think it's heavier than anything the Beatles or the Stones or maybe the Who. The Who were still quite poppy then with the single releases. I think it's heaviest thing any of these guys were doing, and inadvertently inspired hard rock, heavy metal, and garage rock. So if nothing else, if they'd never released another record in their lives, that would have been an astounding achievement, that one record alone. So it's very hard to understate its influence in rock history and also its influence in their career, especially when covered by Van Halen, of course. Giving them a massive boost again in the late 70s. So, I mean, I could wax lyrical about this song all day, but it made them. It absolutely made them. Number one around the world, top 10 in the US, but number one in the UK and all over Europe, and in that fictional country of Australia, places like that. Christian Delorme is our great friend. Bonjour. Comment allez-vous? Comment ça va, mon ami? Good to see you. I think David, did we see? Yeah, David Glenn. I would consider it to be the first heavy metal tune. It is a proto-metal for sure. I mean, yes, later on the heavy metal bands had the equipment to make real loud shit. They did a loud noise with what they had, and just the style of the song. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant stuff. I wish I could play more of it. And they didn't rest on their laurels, though. That started a run of something like 20 British chart hits and some American ones until we get to the incident. So they moved on to, they had a follow-up with All Day and All the Night, which kind of repeated that formula. Then another number one, Tired of Waiting for You, which is a really
Love
neat
that.
song. Yeah, and they introduced a really good guitar sound to that. It's kind of like twangy metallic sound, which features a lot in their songs through the years. That's when that came in. I'm skipping through a lot of these, obviously. I just want to hit a few key ones, or we'll never get it done in 2 hours. But another landmark release from a sound perspective is a song called See My Friend, which was a single in July 65. Well, some sleeves have it as See My Friends, and others as See My Friend. So I don't know which one it's really meant to be because it appears differently. I think it's Friend, in my opinion. But here they are sitting on a very large cannon at the Tower Bridge, just about to take fire on the other side of the river, which if they're North Londoners, shelling the south would be fine.
Yeah.
But this single was important because from a sound perspective, it introduces a kind of a drone-like effect on the guitar, something that would be like an Indian tambura. It's kind of a raga rock thing, fusion of Indian and classical stuff with a very low repeating tone. And it's like 4 months earlier than Norwegian Wood, when the Beatles got lauded for doing that very thing. When Dave's doing a sitar-like sound on the guitar, it's very different from anything that had been heard before. Maybe the Yardbirds had done a little bit of that.
Yeah, Jeff Beck did that over under sideways down. Had a bit of a similarity.
Yeah. Hey, Tina. Good to see you. Thanks for being here, everybody. There's 22 people here right now. I absolutely appreciate you all being here for this chat about this wonderful band that I love. But yeah, so a very landmark sound for them, showing that they weren't just hard rock riff meisters. They had a lot more in their arsenal from a songwriting and musical perspective. And it's a very mature song written by Ray. I mean, considering it's mid-65, it's about loss, of death, friendship. It's about his sister that died again. And it's very melancholic. So when you read it, read the lyrics, very mature for these young guys to come up with something like this. Showing that it wasn't all just Moon, June, whatever, and rock and roll, So I credit them with Ray, particularly with his songwriting, with that maturity and bringing it into pop music and rock music. Beatles did it too, to a certain extent, over the years. I think the Kinks were doing it just as early as they were.
Can I just point, Brian, because I was actually part of that culture.
Yeah,
I was actually the kid listening to the radio, and there were certain things that you were really paying attention to. A new record by the Beatles and Stones was obviously a big deal, but when the Kinks had something come out, once you got past the first couple of riffy type things, everything they did was a sort of a statement, something new. We have so many outlets these days for expression that back then there was very little on the radio and television. And so you started getting these clever people like Ray Davies putting things down that, as like up north, we didn't really have the sensibilities to appreciate it. But over time, we've learned to love it. But it was like, you could kind of say, yeah, there was something about it that spoke for you as a teenager. And they were saying things we didn't quite understand, but it strikes a chord emotionally, everything they did. And you understood, even though the next record might be completely different. They dedicated follower of fashion, Waterloo Sunset. Everything was fascinating. It was that period, fascinating period.
And I think that's why I'm such a big fan and devotee of the 60s as a period.
It's amazing.
My name, because everything was new.
Every week.
people were trying new stuff, and the singles market particularly, now it's all albums. Well, it's back to just tracks now, but for a long time, rock became about albums. The singles market was fascinating. You would get 30 great releases in a week from big and small bands, and then 3 months later, another one.
Yeah.
And they were all trying to do something different and exciting. I mean, I can vaguely remember hearing stuff on the radio as a little kid. My mother had the radio on all day. I think Penny Lane is the first one that really stuck in my mind as a kid. But I've often envied the experience that you would have had with being able to hear that live.
I mean, we've probably gone over this before, but we didn't have a record player in our house. We had we had a radio system that was piped in. It wasn't even a tuned-in radio. It was a little dial on the wall. You got 3 choices.
I remember those. Yeah.
I forget. Radio rentals.
The light program would be
Yeah. And so you're not exposed to anything. Yeah. And if you lived in London, you might be able to. And so it was just an incredible period to be a teenager. And all these everything was open-minded, you know.
I kind of envy that. I mean,
I appreciate it to this day. I kept my little diaries. And I'm like, I wrote stuff down. As primitive as it is.
We had a certain amount of that in the 70s because it was still a new era, and especially when new wave came in, all the singles and things. There was still a lot of excitement then, and it was still records and music papers and 3 shows on TV you could find every week that you'd see stuff. It wasn't quite as bad as it is now, but I still think the 60s just had that edge with experimentation and freshness, you know. Oakley Vandal is here. Good to see you. Thanks for listening, buddy. And David Glenn saying, that's what I miss about the 60s and 70s. Everything was new.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, it is special. I know young people today may say that but as well. But so I wanted to talk about then what happened. Now, at this point, they were huge in Britain. They were having hits in America. They embarked on a world tour in 1965, where they went to first of all, they made the mistake of going to the fictional countries of Australia and New Zealand. So that obviously threw the continuum, the space-time continuum out. But then things went awry when they arrived in the States. And I got some notes in it here. So basically, they went on their first concert tour of the US, and they were popular in the US at this point. And things went wrong pretty quickly, though. There was tensions between the band, management, local promoters, and the American music unions. And it came to a head when the Kinks accused promoters of not paying them and demanded payment before playing. Some of the shows were not well promoted, and people didn't turn up, didn't get the crowd. Some had terrible sound systems. There was a lack of advertising. The promoters really let them down. But the disagreement over payments basically caused huge conflicts between their band and their manager. And then Ray supposedly assaulted in sheer frustration one of the promoters because they weren't getting paid. They were out of cash. They were getting stiffed. And as a result, the American Music Union banned them from playing in America. And they couldn't play there again until 1969. So their peak singles years in America were wasted, and their popularity there plummeted. So otherwise, their trajectory may have taken a different road from the one it did. I think musically, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but in terms of fame, it took until the late 70s before they really made it big in America. And there's a lot of arguing about who did what and so on at the time. But what did happen was that one of their managers, because they had 3, Larry Page, basically abandoned them and flew home to Britain and left them to fend for themselves. So they weren't getting paid. They were having fights with promoters. They were fighting each other. Shows weren't going well. And he just said, fuck it, I'm off. And that resulted in years of legal wrangling between them and him, Larry Page. Ray Davies particularly got really angry about this over the years, about this guy. So, but the result was they were banned because the U.S. American Musicians Union said, "Well, you can't behave yourselves, so you're banned." They didn't say anything about them not getting paid, which was the cause of the problem. So that was the end of their U.S. Career for a few years. So what they did instead, not that the stuff didn't get released in America, they just couldn't tour to support it. And in America, touring was important. You'll know that, Granny.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
you got to be seen. You have to be seen. You have to go to all those towns. But one side effect of that was that it actually turned the band musically into even more of a British band. Dare I say an English band? Exactly. God save the Queen. So they in effect, their music became what I would call, there's Americana. I think the Kinks invented the Britannicana.
Britannicana. That's good.
Britannicana, because
Yeah.
they became their subject matter became very anglicized. Their sound became a little bit more, less kind of American rock and roll influenced and more English.
Yep.
Perhaps with folk and other influences, and they created a uniquely British rock and roll style, which you can tell. It's hard for me to describe, but when you think of the records, you'll know what I mean. So lots of nostalgic stuff, quirky, very evocative. Subject matters like class and loss of British history, suburban life, commuters in London, social commentary. They became the most British of rock bands, I think, because they had no prospects in America for a while. So they may have gone that way anyway. I don't know. So, the singles continued to be released in Britain and they sold well. But then came another one of these landmark songs that to this day stands the test of time for everybody. It's Sunny Afternoon, which gave them their third #1 hit in Britain. And this, I absolutely adore this song. It's I love the descending bass line intro, the dun, dun, dun,
I'm nodding my head as you're talking.
dun,
I'm like,
dun, dun.
yeah.
And then so musically it's quirky, with great backing vocals and very semi-acoustically driven at this point. I think they had created this kind of semi-acoustic sound, and it that's descending guitar, bass, and barrelhouse piano for the first time, and it's got this languid hot summer feel. But lyrically, it's just incredible. It's basically Ray Davies having a go at the taxmen for taking all his cash, because it was 98% tax at the moment in Britain. And he kind of wraps it up in this whole tale about being a rock star whose wife is divorcing him because he's a drunk. And I mean, I can't play it because I couldn't find a clip that was playable that I wouldn't get. But I just love the lyrics. The taxman's taken all my dough and left me in my stately home, lazing on a sunny afternoon. And I can't sail my yacht. He's taken everything I've got. All I've got's this sunny afternoon. Yeah. And it just goes on like that. It just the great, chorus: "Save me, save me, save me from this squeeze. I got a big fat mama trying to break me."
Yep.
And it's in the summer it was released, and it sounds like a summer song. It's just a crowning achievement for like whatever he was, 24-year-old or to write a song like that. Huge #1 hit, still played endlessly to this day. Love it to death. It kind of savaged. It's a satirical song, savaging the British system,
the establishment.
And it was, you can see on this EP of Sunny Afternoon, some of the other songs, like Dead End Street, which was a social commentary about poverty in London, but also dedicated follower of fashion, where he sings about the dandies and the fashion-obsessed mods and youths going around London in the mid-'60s, and satirizes them. And I particularly love the line that, "And when he pulls his frilly panties right up tight, he feels a dedicated follower of fashion," in the way he sings it. So they were really hitting their peak with these beautiful, unique songs. It's 70s karaoke. That's right.
Yep.
Well, lazing on a sunny afternoon is kind of Queen. Lazing on a sunny afternoon. That was sunny. That was a kind of a more upbeat thing. This one's a slightly different song. A similar title, for sure. But yeah, they really were breaking new ground with these. I wish I could play this. Now I don't want to disregard the albums they were making in the 60s. They're really good, but the singles were what stood out, and they put a lot of effort into those. So Sunny Afternoon, I'm sure you remember it, Granny.
Oh yeah, it's in my head as you're talking.
Yeah, I can't get it out of my head now, and it's not an ELO song. Well, it is an ELO song. Can't get it out of my head. But yeah, my wife and I were talking earlier because I've been playing Kinks songs all week, prepping for this, and she said I can't stop humming all those tunes.
Yeah,
it's incredible. You know?
Yeah, you had that talent.
Yeah,
but no, we kind of moved with it without being conscious, because I was never very musical, logical like you. You know so much about everything to do with the recordings and the history and everything. We were just taking it as it came. It would be on the radio or television, and you moved along with them without really understanding. You know, you didn't think, well, why aren't they doing that riff anymore? They developed, and you went along with it. And the whole music thing was happening like that. Every band had a new angle every other month. You know, it was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to see that a lot of people in the chat are familiar with the material. I would urge anyone who just knows them from maybe a couple of their hits or from the late 70s arena rock stuff, go back, get a 40-song collection or whatever, and just listen to every one of these great singles that they did. I've skipped over a dozen already, but they're timeless, and they're a band that deserve more accolades than they possibly get, given that they were competing with the Beatles, the Stones, the Who. So, but if it wasn't enough that they had this brilliant song, Sunny Afternoon, they had to go and top it all with possibly one of the greatest songs ever written, maybe even the greatest English song ever written. And I say that as a huge Beatles fan. And it's certainly in the same league as a Strawberry Fields or a Penny Lane. Waterloo Sunset. In May 1967, they released this, and it's, to this day, it makes me emotional for a place I'd never been to.
Yeah.
You know, I've been now. I've walked over Waterloo Bridge many times now, and I've been there many times. But at the time when I first heard it, it's so evocative, sentimental, emotional, heartfelt, and it's raised tribute to that dirty grey London that he grew up in, the Waterloo area, Waterloo Bridge. It's poetry. Also includes references to it's about his sister who passed away, the one that he was devoted to. Although he does mention characters, he's putting it Terry and Julie, which were meant to be Julie Christie and Terence Stamp, but he just liked the names. He just liked the names Terry and Julie because they were in the news, and he put them in. But it's really about his sister. To me, it's the equivalent of a Strawberry Fields or Penny Lane. I mean, it's beautiful music with a great acoustic driven sound, but with Dave's twangy metallic guitar playing.
You know, it's one of those songs that when you hear it, it takes you back to that moment, like that. Yeah. It's one of those songs, you know, you instantly recollect that time.
Yeah, Roman's talking about the Journey collections, which I think might be put out for the 60th anniversary. You're going to get really good stuff collected on those. Yeah, I can't stop thinking about Sunny Afternoon now. I haven't heard it in a while. I've gone on, because of this show, I went on a whole binge playing these. I've played Sunny Afternoon about 8 times in the last 2 days. I just can't get enough of it anymore. It's crazy. But yeah, the lyrics of Waterloo Sunset are just phenomenal. I mean, I'm not going to do it justice here. Dirty old river, must you keep rolling, flowing into the night. People so busy, makes me feel dizzy. Taxi light shines so bright. And then but I don't need no friends as long as I gaze on Waterloo Sunset. I am in paradise. Dun, dun, dun. And then that great Dave heavy guitar, but not too heavy over it. Just a beautiful, beautiful song. Got to be the top 2 or 3 English rock songs ever written, in my opinion. I just love it to death. What a legacy, and they were only 4 years in, you know. Roman sent me some DM pictures. I think he's talking about the Journey albums that are, and I don't mean the band Journey. Yeah, the Journey. Let me just pull that up on the screen here. So that's part 1. He says there's a part 2 coming out. So these look like, I mean, there's been millions of Kinks collections, but these do look really good. They've even got a few unusual tracks in there from different eras, so they're not all just the hits. Stop Your Sobbing's in there, I noticed. Who'll Be the Next in Line, which is one of my favorite songs, which is just a B-side. So this, whoever's put this together has put in a really nice job, and that's just part 1. So yeah, look out for those, the Journey part 1, and there's going to be a part 2. Thank you, Roman.
You know, back then some of the B-sides were the better tunes because the power politics, they couldn't always release the one they really wanted. A lot of bands had to deal with that.
Yeah, I've got a couple I'm going to talk about at the end of the show. I've got a list of 5 unoverlooked songs I want to mention. So we'll get to those. But yeah, Waterloo Sunset, again, if they'd never written another song, they would still be legends just for this. But yeah, they weren't finished. There's a few mid-60s pictures of them.
Nice hat.
It's a nice hat. I'm not quite sure what Dave's doing with that hat, but I like the earlier stuff. They used to wear the red velvet riding outfits.
With those shirts. Oh, they really look good.
Yeah,
and the boots, the 60s Cuban heel boots.
Cuban heel boots, yeah. This is more mid-60s. This is when they were, this is actually when they were pretending to be Kraftwerk before Kraftwerk existed.
Right.
Right, the synthesizers didn't exist, so they're not there yet. But this is their Kraftwerk period. And then more of a sort of a, I guess, Waterloo Sunset era.
67, 68, yeah.
Yeah, with a really, really weird look on Ray's face there. It doesn't even look like Ray.
I think he wants to go to the toilet.
He does. Maybe there was a stand-in for that gig. Maybe. Yeah, so it's starting to shed the suits, though, and get into more relaxed gear. I quite like that one. This is probably more like 1968 era, 69, before Pete left. Getting close to the end of his time. So, where were we? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the songs were becoming more and more sophisticated. There's, a lot of nostalgia. Ray's a nostalgic guy, but in a modern way. It's a weird thing. Very quirky, very evocative. A lot of songs lamenting the loss of British tradition, which was interesting. Great singles kept coming. Dave had a couple of great singles. They were the Kinks, but they were branded as Dave Davies' Death of a Clown, which is a great track. And Susanna, Still Alive. And then Days is a beautiful ballad, which, as I mentioned, go see Ray singing that at Glastonbury. And then albums like the Village Green Preservation Society, which is all about the traditions of Britain put into a rock setting. And then an album, Arthur and the Decline and Fall of the British Empire. I mean, who makes a title like that for an album in a rock band in the 60s? Brilliant albums, by the way. More concept albums now. They've moved away from the collections of songs into concept albums. But Arthur does feature, from this 60s singles period, one of my all-time favorite songs, Victoria. Now, if you've never heard the song Victoria, and they were still playing it in the 70s and 80s live in their arena stuff, it's incredible. It's like I don't know, how would you put it? It's a juxtaposition of the repressed English poor and the expansion of the empire for Her Majesty's glory. And it's just incredible romping fun. It's a hard driving semi-acoustic rock, but then Dave brings in all this blues-based heavy guitar, and then a brass section at the end, powering it forward. It's relentless. I used to, when I got out of my whatever, I'd put Victoria on and play it really loud and dance around. It's such a good track. Towards the end of the run of 60 singles, it's from the album Arthur, and I don't know, if you've never heard Victoria, do yourself a favor. It's one of the greatest Kinks tracks ever. Waterloo Sunset's fine. It is, Davina. Waterloo Sunset is fine. Thank you again to you all for being here. We still have over 20 people listening. I'm so honored and humbled you'd come to listen to me talk about this British band that a lot of people in North America don't know as well. And hey, if any of the Kinks are listening, Dave, if you're listening, let me know. You're welcome to join the show. I'd probably have a heart attack, but so yeah, and they entered. This is when they started to enter what I would call the second period of their career, which was the album-oriented concept album period. So let me just hide that. So a great run of singles. They also, in 1969, managed to get back to America to start touring, but they changed their act so much because of the this move to concept albums, which eventually moved into theatrical productions, movie projects, TV stuff. Ray Davies did a great thing called Return to Waterloo. If you ever see that get a copy of that in DVD, it's a brilliant musical with Bob Peck, who you may remember was in Jurassic Park. First Jurassic Park, Bob Peck's the star of it, playing a commuter on the London Underground, and weird things are happening, and it's fantastic. So Ray was writing all this cinematic stuff, and they had a full-scale theatrical act with brass section, backing singers, you name it, and it was all going on. Not so much rock and roll, but it was getting there, you know. So they were starting to morph into this kind of look. I love this picture, actually. Hang on. There you go. That one there. They always look so good in black and white. And then the band, Pete Quaife left, and John Gosling and John Dalton was the bass player at this point, joined. And they started to morph into, you can see the clothes have changed. The haircuts have changed. Dave's got even longer hair. Expanded the lineup, started to do concept albums, moved away from singles releases. They still had a couple of great singles to go, though. And I'm not just counting Ape Man. I am an ape man. Great record. The big one was still... They still had one big single in their arsenal in 1970, June 1970. I'm not going to cover the concept album period too deeply before we move on to arena rock era, because there's so many albums in there, so much material. It wouldn't do it justice. I'm going to hit a couple of my favorites. Lola, of course, was a huge hit in America. They were back in America. Number 2 in the UK, number 9 in the US, and it's where the narrator has confusion over his paramour, who walks like a woman but talks like a man.
Ahead of his time.
He was way ahead of his time, and it's based, according to Ray, on a real experience in a club in Paris, where he was there with one of their other managers, like Robert Wade. Thanks for putting that up, John. Robert was spending a lot of time in this club, getting drunk and hanging out with this rather large guy, African-American guy, I think, in a dress, he was getting quite fresh and friendly with this person. And they ended up going away in a taxi at the end of the night. Apparently, of course, it turned out to be the tackle was still intact. And so Ray said, I gotta write a song about this, and hence Lola. And it's funny, but at the same time, I mean, if he said it in Soho, not Paris, but the clubs of London. I mean, you were in the clubs of London, Granny. You must
Yeah.
have seen it all.
Yeah, but, England is sort of parochial. I mean, unless you were in London or one of the major cities, there was very little of this that you were aware of. Like if you were of that persuasion, you would know where to go.
Yeah.
But like when we started touring in Europe, it was just more accepted, like drag clubs and stuff, and France and Germany. And we used to get into trouble because we didn't understand. We weren't sophisticated. We'd stumble in thinking it'd be a good place to get a drink, and we'd be making comments very tactless and tasteless.
Yeah.
Asked to leave most times. So it was much more prevalent over there.
Sure. And Ray, I mean, it was Paris particularly. It was quite a libertarian place, and Ray decided to write a song about it, and it became one of their most famous songs, still played to this day, and everyone knows the words, which we'll cover in a minute. But Christian Delorme, thank you, my friend, for the $6.69 super chat. It's the first super chat, I think. We've had some super stickers, so you have popped that cherry. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to play your favorite clip for you.
That's so good.
I do love that. So thank you very much, Christian. There is a comment here I wanted to highlight from Davina. The Beatles must have been listening to the Kinks music at that time.
Absolutely.
I would imagine that they were fairly close. Like they were all these big bands. The Beatles were quite egalitarian. I mean, they had a wide circle of people. I knew that. I mean, obviously they were big pals with the Stones for years. I gotta imagine Paul and John were listening to this stuff and talking to the Ray and Dave about it, and they were all forcing each other to up their game all the time. Yeah,
you've heard that the thing of the Beatles and the Beach Boys. They were timing their releases, and Pet Sounds and the Beatles. They were kind of sending samples backwards and forwards. So yeah, I think the Beatles were very open about stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was the part of the fertile thing of the 60s. Everyone was trying to learn from each other and outdo each other in a good way. That is a Bill McClintock mashup, David. Absolutely, it's my favorite Bill McClintock. That one.
I don't forget the first time you showed me that. I'd never even heard of any of this stuff. I'm pretty new to this online world, and I'm going, it's so fantastic. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, the mashups are great. Bill McClintock's the master of the mashups. Sorry, that was so Lola. Yeah, the lyrics. I mean, I'll just briefly touch on some of them. Oh yeah, well, I'm not the world's most physical guy, but when she squeezed me tight, she nearly broke my spine. Oh, my Lola, la 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 Lola. Girls will be girls and boys will be girls. When I left home just a week before, and I'd never kissed a woman before, but Lola smiled and took me by the hand and said, "Dear boy, I'm going to make you a man." So, just beautiful, funny stuff, and very revolutionary for its time. I even loved the single they followed up with, "Ape Man," which was a big hit.
Yeah.
I'm an ape man. I'm
Man.
an ape man. Oh, I'm an ape man.
Man.
My brother had that single. This came from one of the albums that they were releasing in this early 70s period, Lola versus the Power Man and the Money Go Round, which obviously had a lot of stuff about the music business in it. And they made a series of these concept albums, Village Green Preservation Society, Everyone's in Showbiz. Percy has got a particularly interesting cover. I think there was actually a play based on that one. And then,
well, Percy's a nickname for the unit, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And if you look at the cover of the album, it's slightly risque.
Pointing Percy.
Without Lola, we would never have Yoda by Weird Al.
Yep.
That's true. And then Ape Man was the opening tune for Robin Williams' Club Paradise movie. That's right. They've featured Kinks tunes in a lot of great places. So yeah, it was definitely in that concept album period. And then they did the theatrical stuff, which they were actually doing as stage plays. Preservation Act 1 and 2, Schoolboys in Disgrace. You could go to these tours and it was a stage play you were getting with music.
I wonder where they got that picture of me, the schoolboy.
I don't know. Are you the one with the cane, or are you the schoolboy?
I used to get 6 of the best every day just for being late, for wearing the wrong socks at school. I got plenty of that.
We got the strap, big leather strap.
Oh,
We
well,
got
you know, the last place in Europe to manufacture those straps, they were leather, and they had 2 slits in them to make it hurt more. And they were, the European Humanities Court or something had to take the manufacturer in Scotland to tell him to stop making them. Shame on you.
That's why we always got them fresh in Scotland.
Yeah. But
When I was in school, it was the big paddles with the holes in it, so it moved faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Bastards.
but yeah, I used to get that strap right, and it would go. They would always make it go right up here.
Yeah.
And I was a good boy.
Oh, I wasn't.
But from these albums, there's a couple of key tracks I would like people to check out if they get the chance, if you've not heard them. So from 1972, there's a great song called Supersonic Rocket Ship from the Everybody's in Showbiz album. It was a single, minor hit. It's a quirky little song which displays another trait of the Kinks had, which was a sort of retro futurism. So kind of an old-fashioned sounding song about getting on a rocket and going into space. Very acoustic, folksy sound with a really kind of cutesy vocal by Ray. It's a song about a bunch of misfits escaping the madness on Earth on a rocket. But it's very hopeful and optimistic, while saying we're getting away from this pile of shit that is humanity right now.
Well, didn't Richard Branson just have one last week?
He did, yeah. What, a pile of shit?
Well, probably, but
I mean, the sound that they'd created in this era, a lot of it was what I would probably call pastoral. So guys like Rod Stewart and the Faces, like Mandolin Wind and songs like that, Ronnie Lane, Slim Chance, Ooh La La, Van Morrison, the Kinks were doing that. A lot of that sound, very acoustic, semi-acoustic, driven, folk influence, but not folky, rock, but with a folk edge. You'd hear a lot of that with Rod Stewart and guys like that doing the same kind of thing in that era. So I think I don't know if they invented that sound. They were certainly doing it in the 60s early on. So
yeah,
pastoral, I would call it. And then another brilliant track from that era is much more rock track is another hard driving, semi-acoustic, really hard driving, but then the guitar, Dave's guitar kicks in with some great power chords. And that's from Muswell Hillbillies, which was a concept album all about North London and where they came from. Great, the photo of the cover of 20th Century Man. Check that track out. One of the most neglected 70s songs, and that's from the great Muswell Hillbillies album, which I could do a whole show on. It's such a good album. Here they all are standing at the bar, and pubs like that. I remember pubs like that in London when I started going down there. Even in the 80s, there were.
I lived in them. I used to live in pubs.
Yeah, that's you in the background there, isn't it, with the flat cap?
Well, I don't see the picture, so
You're not showing it.
My apologies.
Oh yeah, I've been in 1,000 clubs like that.
Yeah. So yeah, Muswell Hillbillies, brilliant concept album about very English again, very English.
It's a clever title, Hillbillies. You know, like suggesting that they're a little bit outside the norm. Muswell Hillbillies. Sort of clever.
We've started a capital punishment debate.
Oh, good.
Well,
yeah.
Not capital punishment. We started a punishment debate. My mother used the old wooden spoon, says Darius, but my dad had a modified 2x4 called the Board of Education.
Board of Education, yeah. I like that.
We're definitely going to hell. I don't know about the Davina, the Kinks and Genesis probably. I think I've seen posters where they did concerts together, so I'm pretty sure that they would have coincided. At that point, some of the Kinks sound would have fitted in quite well with the early Genesis stuff, with a lot of acoustic.
Definitely crossovers going on at that point. Because London was everything was happening in London before you had Manchester breaking out. Everybody came to London, so there was a lot of action, clubs and pubs and even like discos and nightlife. People were interacting all the time.
Yeah, I would say that unlike Genesis, though, the one thing that the Kinks had was an English vocal. a working class English vocal. They sang as working class North London guys. Ray didn't try and sound, well, maybe in one or two early singles, didn't try and sound American. They always sounded like what they were and where they were from, which is different from a lot of bands. But it's a great album. When Ray in 20th Century Man from Muswell Hillbillies, and Ray's expressing his nostalgia for the great art of the past. He references a lot of great art in it, in buildings and architecture, and he compares it to the dysfunctional state of the modern world. So it's a really, really neat, like 20th Century Man encapsulates that idea. Like, why I'm in the 20th century, but I hate all this stuff. Powerful rock anthem, 20th Century Man. Very overlooked. By the way, supersonic rocket ship, I think, was in Avengers Endgame. Am I right in saying? It's used in the soundtrack of Avengers Endgame, I believe. I seem to recall. Just check. If anybody knows in the chat if I'm just making that up or not, then let me know. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was featured in the Endgame, sort of the transition between the scene.
David Glenn, yes, it was.
Yeah, it was. Yep. So the wonderful Courtney is joining us. Good to see you, Courtney. How are you?
Hello, hold on.
No, we hear you.
I'm hearing double. One moment. It's because I'm listening on the other.
Well, you sound single. We're not hearing two of you, so
we'll charge you twice.
There we go. Okay, I was very confused. That was like throwing me way off because I was hearing the double.
Well, I'd like to welcome Courtney to the show. It's good to see you, lass. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. Good. How's everyone here doing? Nice to see you.
Doing good.
Oh, we're doing great. We've missed you.
I've missed me too, actually. So things have just been hectic, but I keep trucking like always. So
good. Well, it's great to have you here, and I'm glad we've got you here because I'm just about to go into the arena rock late 70s, early 80s era of the Kinks when they were tight with the punks and the metal guys.
Yeah. They didn't go the butt rock scene either. They just kind of went like they stayed cool.
So just to finish on Muswell Hillbillies, it's kind of a lo-fi tribute to their hometown and an exploration of modernity versus tradition. So all these concept albums in that era are great. If you had to pick one, I'd pick this one. And that's all I got to say about that. So we're going to move on to what I would call the third era of the Kinks, which is the arena rock years. So at some point after all these wonderful concept albums and not making any money and going broke, I think they decided, maybe we should just make a normal album of rock stuff and go out and do some tours. And for whatever reason, that they caught fire in the US. They finally caught fire in 1977. They signed to Arista Records. This is what the band kind of looked like through this period, late 70s, early 80s. Oops. They're starting to get into the shades, skinnier ties, suspiciously looking rock t-shirts.
I love this look. I'm just gonna say, we're not here to talk about fashion, but this is like my look of like the ultimate perfect.
This
rocker.
is 1979 Kinks.
I was 1 year old.
First time I saw them live. And then this is my 83. So they were really up in their game in terms of the look, but they started a series of great tours through the late 70s and 80s. They released an album, first of all, called Sleepwalker, which made it into the top 20 in the US. A collection of rock songs, as opposed to a concept album, with a hit called Rock and Roll Fantasy, which I'd love, again, to be able to play, but an example of their new kind of hard-driving, punk-edged rock sound started to catch fire, and they started to, the Knack, David Glenn mentions the Knack, a little bit like that. The Knack even covered a Kinks song, and I'm struggling to remember which one. It'll come back to me. The Knack did cover a Kinks song and had a minor hit with it. So Rock and Roll Fantasy became a hit single. They were back.
Is that My Sharona or is that someone else?
Well, that was My Sharona, but they covered a Kinks song.
I think they modeled themselves after that English look.
Oh, they did, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But this was great that they actually were, in effect, were back as a commercial force in the US, more so than in Britain in this era, even. So this album, Sleepwalker, all the subsequent albums were straightforward collections of rock tracks, not heavy concept albums. A lot of stories still in them. The writing was still great, and there was but mixed amongst those great stories were some killer rock anthems and rock songs with just like about rocking out. And it didn't hurt though that they were getting a lot of love and attention from contemporary bands. Courtney, the Jam,
You know, I
were
love
huge.
Sorry, I'm
in
replying to
Britain.
my ex-mother-in-law.
Possibly the biggest band in Britain in the late 70s, early 80s.
Great song.
String of great tracks. They covered David Watts, which was an old Kinks B-side, which was a song about envy of a successful grammar boy from a poor school kid. So they covered it, had a hit with that. It was a Kinks B-side. The Pretenders covered Stop Your Sobbing, Kinks song.
I wish I had my red leather jacket and my hair was still
Yeah,
long.
and in fact, I don't know if I've got the picture of it, so I'll go back up. No, I do have a picture. Hang on. It resulted at some point in Ray Davies and Chrissie Hynde having a bit of a fling. They were partners for a while. They even have a daughter together.
Yeah,
cute. I love her.
Yeah,
I don't go that way either. She's just beautiful. I idolize her. So
yeah, I love the Kinks T-shirt she's wearing.
I know. I would
very
die
loyal, very loyal.
Kinky boots, kinky boots though, the boots on it and everything. So they were getting a lot of love from the new wave crowd because a lot of the Kinks stuff was really punky and seen as garage band punky stuff. But on top of that, they got an enormous boost in '78 on the first Van Halen album when Van Halen covered "You Really Got Me." It's cherry on the cake because that introduced them to a whole new bunch of, especially teenage American rock fans, not just punk stuff, but rock stuff, heavy rock fans. This is possibly, controversial statement, possibly the second greatest rock cover ever. The first being Jimi Hendrix's "All Along the Watchtower." This is probably number 2 on my list.
I'm not a huge Van Halen fan, but it's probably one of the few songs I like by Van Halen, and it's not one of their songs.
Yeah, no, it's a shame because I've heard they're pretty keen on you.
Oh yeah, Hot for Teacher.
Yeah, yeah. So when I heard this in '78, I just freaked because not only did I love the song and the Kinks, I loved their version of it, which is kind of strips the paint off the back of the wall at 100 yards version.
And it was a good update, wasn't it?
Oh, great!
It kept the faithful roots of it, but it was up to date.
It really, really brought the Kinks song up to date, and it brought the Kinks into a whole new audience. All of a sudden, they were touring arenas in the States, 20,000 seaters or bigger, and having fanatical audiences of young people going crazy because they went back and found out about the other Kinks stuff. So I can't praise Van Halen enough for what they did here. They loved the song, but they also kind of paid it back because it made the Kinks big again, So
I have a picture I want to show you just really quickly because you can tell who me and my friends modeled ourselves after. You can tell the male in the picture. Look at the hairdo. I have the red leather jacket.
Right.
I
said Blondie, but that's. You look
I
like
was
Chris
blonde
Stein
for a long
Chris
time.
Stein and Debbie Hanning, I would have said, but
I used to get that a lot.
yeah, but that's a cool picture.
But yeah, his hairdo was like exactly the haircut and the rock and roll hair.
And nice, thank you for sharing that, Lass. We're just going to keep the screen on you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Lospec. Hi,
I'd rather look at her than myself.
Oh, come on, Granny.
my
What's
dog,
wrong with
my
you?
dog is
Look at
so
that.
cool.
Let's do the comparison.
There he is.
Can we get the
There
chat
he
to
is.
vote? Granny versus Courtney.
Oh, she's better.
No, definitely him.
She's
No one-
definitely got
I
it.
tell you what, no one's going to vote for me, so don't worry about it.
You're the king of the castle. Come on.
Don't
Yeah.
forget, of course, that Van Halen also covered Where Have All the Good Times Gone on Van Halen 3, I think it was, which is
Right.
also a killer cover. Heavier
Where have all the
than
good
a very
times gone?
heavy thing that's got weights on it. Yeah, I agree with Christian. Redhead. That
I was
suits
just
you.
going to write in the chat. I was going to say, hi, Christian. I didn't want to interrupt.
So the Kinks were back in a big way. I mean, they had Sleepwalker, an album called Misfits in 1978. But then it comes to one of my all-time favorite albums, and I want to focus on this rather than all the other ones after this, is an album called Low Budget, which is all written all about the woes of the
I love
economy.
that cover.
It is an astoundingly good album. It's sitting in the back here somewhere. My original 1979 purchased copy is still there. It's possibly the greatest. It's the greatest album of this period, I think. Packed with hard rock anthems, scorching riffs. Dave's guitar playing is just crazy on this. Heavy blues stuff, anthems, songs like A Gallon of Gas, showcasing economic woes. The brilliant Wish I Could Fly Like Superman, escapist track, which was a big hit. The title track, which is just a grinding blues guitar fest, absolutely brilliant. There's not a bad track on this album. It's one of the greatest albums of that period by any band. A total return to form of all kinds. And I wish I could play. Actually, I can't play a lot of tracks from it. But I can play this video I'm going to share of Dave Davies' extended guitar intro to the song Low Budget. Dave is one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and he is on fire in this era. So let's just bask in the glory of this particular intro. Dirty sound.
I was gonna say you might want to stop that one. Like
no, it's a bit rate. I'm getting a bit rate warning. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just.
I tested this. I tested this before and it was okay, but so as somebody, Davina said, it's a long way from their 60s sound, but in a sense, no, it's the development of Dave's guitar skills into a new arena rock era. He was always able to shred it and play it. He is on fire in this era. He is a real guitar god.
He has his technique is smoother. I'm not a heavy critic of that, but at the beginning, it was charming how rough and ready he was, but he's definitely got the sound in the end. You know, I saw that was a West German radio production, Rock
Palast, yeah.
I think I saw them on a tour at the same time.
You probably did, because that's like 82-ish, 82.
I think I saw them.
But the intro there... Sorry, Courtney.
You talked about that dirty sound, you know, in the beginning. That is what did it for me. Like, there's a specific type of punk rock that I like. It's punk rock and roll, basically. And it's that sound that influenced bands like the Dead Boys. And, you know, there's a bunch of them. But it's like that that is my sound.
It's a-
But you know, Dave Davies at the beginning, he's trying really hard because this is when the rock guitarists were coming to the fore, and he's really at the beginning trying really hard. He doesn't quite have it, but it still sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
But you can hear, you can see his mind. I wish I could.
Yeah, it's a dirty sound that he creates,
He
and
made
I don't
it sound
mind
good,
any.
though.
Yeah, I don't mind any flaws. I
Complain
love
about
it.
it wasn't crisp or anything. You know, he made that sound
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I could listen to that all day, and I was what,
too.
17, 16 when that came out. I nabbed that album straight away, and then and yeah, just it's a gritty, dirty Les Paul sound as well. I love the Les Paul. But I saw them for the first time on this. This is my first ticket of the Kinks. I've seen them about 5 times since, but
I get jealous every
Birmingham
time.
Odeon on the low budget tour, December 1988.
See, by now they'd have the equipment to match what they wanted to do. In the
Yes.
beginning, they wouldn't have had it.
Yeah, so that was my first time seeing them, and it was a dream come true. Magnificent.
That's
and then
unbelievable.
I've got other tickets. This is sorry, I've lost the other one I had. I don't know what happened.
Munchausen joined.
I did have another one, but these are in the wrong order. All right. But anyway, Superman came from that album, this big hit single. I'll let Darius in. Hello, Darius.
Hello.
But
What
low
up?
budget, as somebody said, got them on a huge American tour, very successful tour. They made a movie of it. Darius, my friend, how are you?
You know, I couldn't miss this one. I love the Kinks.
Yeah, I've heard you're kinky.
You should hear the
Oh,
song
you've been to that
during
webpage, huh?
karaoke. I'm just kidding.
But
Yeah.
I had another concert. Oh, there it is. I found the other concert ticket. This is a later one from '94, just before they wrapped it up. Barrowland, Glasgow, another great gig. I've seen them at least.
Also on the 18th of a month. That's very
It
interesting.
is. I've seen him a couple of other times, and I've seen Ray Davies in a number of settings, several times on his own. But that first one in '80 was killer. They did a big tour then, and they made an album of it, which I recommend if you want to hear the Kinks at their peak power live, heavy as hell, but playing all the old great stuff too, like Celluloid Heroes and stuff. Get the
Make it
One
big.
for the Road album.
Freezing. Make it big. Make your screen big.
Make it big. She
Yeah.
said.
Make it big, baby. Make it big.
So the Kinks, One for the Road. It's from that tour, double live album.
£6.
$5.99. That was a lot of money for me when I'm only made like 20 quid a week.
Brian, low spec Linux laptop in the chat says, remember the record bubblegum that came in miniature album covers.
Oh, I do remember that. Yes, yes. I wish I had some.
Going back.
So that get that album. It's get low budget and get that album if you want a really good example of how they were at their peak, rejuvenated peak of late 70s arena rock power. And they played all the old great sensitive stuff, but when they rocked, that's how they were doing. I think I might get away with one more.
Yeah, go for it.
One more video of Dave
for it.
Davies' guitar solos, carefully constructed, so it wasn't copyright.
Rumble will tell you to do it either way.
So I'm going to play this one more. This is Dave at his peak in that era.
got
Kept his
me.
shirt tucked in the whole time.
Yeah, the greatness of Dave Davies playing You Really Got Me. I think, yeah, he slays it. I love that dirty Les Paul sound. Hail to Captain Finity. Good to see you, buddy.
Hail, Captain. Ahoy.
The captain will be a Kinks aficionado, I'm sure. Absolutely. Good to see you here, mate. Yeah, so that was Davies' peak. I could get away with playing those after cutting hundreds of clips up. I finally found some I could play. Thank you, YouTube. Hope Dave doesn't mind. I'm hoping he's watching. He's paying attention when I
Hi,
tweet
Dave.
these
If you're
things.
watching, I love you.
We love you.
I love your music.
I would also, before I finish talking about some more of the songs, I would like to say I have a great collection of Dave Davies vinyl. So, because I'm a bit of a fan. Not that I don't love Ray, but I would recommend particularly this album, AFL 13603, Kick-Ass.
Great album cover, and I don't know
Yeah.
how I've never seen that.
Glamour is another one I've got.
Yeah,
Glamour.
I've seen that one.
And this
A
one,
real
which
fan.
is called Chosen People.
Nice.
I got a promo copy of that, but this one here is it's got some great rock anthems on it. It's all guitar. It's brilliant. That's show and
Is that
tell.
the real barcode for the record?
Well, I think it might have been. I think that's the joke.
Yeah.
But, so great era for them. They had a lot of success, arena tours. Gladly, and it helped promote the old songs and the new albums they were making. They had one more hit up their sleeve, though. They had a couple of hits, but the Superman was a bit of a hit. I love the "Wish I Could Fly Like Superman." Great song. That's the album I was talking about. And now we're into something else. Come Dancing. Anyway, I was looking for the sleeve for Come Dancing. That's so 1982 or 3. I think it was
No,
released.
you're right. It was 2. It was 2.
They had a hit with Come Dancing, which was probably their last hit single anywhere. MTV era, of course. Let me just check. I thought I had a picture of the sleeve. I may have inadvertently unpictured it. Oh, other images. Here we go. I got so many images here. You wouldn't believe how long it takes me to put this stuff together. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like you need a producer.
I do need a producer, yes. It's taken me 3 days to do this. And Granny wonders why I've got no time for the rowdy shows. Here we go.
Oh, no, we appreciate whatever time you can spare.
Yeah. Come Dancing was a hit. And again, references back to his sister who died in the dance hall.
Yeah.
Beautiful video. It makes me actually quite sad when I watch this video now.
I didn't know about that until you told me.
It's quite sad, yeah. And he references that old dancehall era. Great video. I mean, he plays the part of the kind of the spiv, as we'd call them, with the little tash and the suit.
You should take your nude photo down from the bottom. I'm just kidding. Go on.
Which nude photo?
I was joking. You had all your photos showing.
Oh, there's no nudes. Not in that set, no. But a big hit single. The video got a lot of play. I think it was on the Give the People What They Want album, which is also a great album. So I was really pleased that they had the hit. It got them a lot of recognition. Another great song from that era is Don't Forget to Dance. Beautiful song.
Pretty sure it's State of Confusion.
State of Confusion. Sorry, mate. Yeah. State of Confusion. Don't Forget to Dance. Another beautiful single from that era. Very wistful. Ray is such a great storyteller. And these are stories. Introduced the word pally. That's right, the Ali Pally.
Pally, yeah.
Which or any pally. Anything called palace was shortened to pally in Britain. So those were great singles. Check those out, everyone. I think Come Dancing is a song that's still played today, I think. And that was really, I mean, there was other albums. I think the last album they made was maybe like 1984. And they were still touring though till into the 90s, when I think another big bust up between Mick, who was drumming up a storm in those tracks, by the way. Mick and Dave resulted in him leaving the band, and they just kind of called it a day in '97.
Didn't the brothers always have kind of a thing also?
Well, Dave and Ray were always fighting.
Yeah,
But-
like, aren't they kin to kind of like the Gallagher brothers? from
Yeah,
Oasis,
they were
that type of thing.
I think they were the template for that. However,
Yeah.
it has to be said that in recent years they're certainly not estranged. They bought houses next to each other in London.
Aw.
Oh, sweet.
So what
I
we
wish
would
my
call
siblings and I
terraced
were like that.
houses, like townhouses, they bought one next to each other.
That's so
This is a
cool.
picture of them out and standing at the front, probably arguing about whose turn it is to get the groceries.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. Phobia in '93 was their last studio album.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, mate.
So they got houses adjacent now. They can bang on each other's walls, telling them to turn that
Yes.
music down.
That's right. Turn that bloody music down.
Or be like, get me something.
Your
I need
dog,
this."
your dog's been in my backyard again.
Yeah. Go
Oh yeah,
clean
because
it
they
up.
share a wall. Yeah, because the townhouse is basically a condo, right?
It's a terrace house, not quite
Terrace
so
we'd
grand.
call them. They're side by side. They're not above and below, but side by side.
They're like city houses, I would call them.
Yeah, you share your
in
walls.
Philly, or Darius, I forget who said that, but like that's how the houses were in Philly that I lived in.
Yeah. So they're not completely estranged. And I know Ray and Mick are still friends. I don't know about Mick and Dave, but they, as I say, they've been talking about a 60th anniversary of the band. They've been talking about a reunion for years, albeit that Dave had all those health problems of strokes. He can play again now, but as Ray said, I think we'll probably just do the reunion in the pub and we'll buy a few rounds. So
watch the videos.
Watch the videos, yeah. They're not as bad as the Gallaghers, Ray and Dave. I think it's normal brothership, but Dave and Mick Avory were like chalk and cheese. They fire and ice. They just couldn't get along for many years. Mick's still involved with the band though. I mean, they did all the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff together or whatever. It's not like they're killing each other every time see each other. It's just hard when you're on tour.
It's like a divorce, sometimes you get on better afterwards.
Yeah. So I'd like to just finish off a little bit with some of my favorite tracks that are perhaps lesser known. If you guys would indulge me with that.
This is what I'm here for. This is your thing.
That's right. We love it.
Indulge it. I won't keep you long, So lots. I mean, they've got a catalogue of dozens of singles, dozens of albums, whatever. Lots of live albums, collections. I have a few sneaky favourites that are not quite as well known. One is the B-side of Everybody's Gonna Be Happy. And it's a track called Who'll Be the Next in Line. You can hear it or see it on YouTube.
I can't believe you covered that. I have to look it up. There's a punk
Somebody
band that
did
covered
cover it, and I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
who.
and Dio answered the question.
Yeah. That's right. So, well, maybe he was answering the question. That's true. It's if you hear it, it's a really weird track for 65. It's kind of funky, but it's got this real descending vocal line, which doesn't go anywhere like you'd expect it to go. So it's very different from a lot of 65 beat boom stuff. So who'll be the next in line? Have a listen to that, and you'll think, "Oh, that's weird," but very catchy, but weird. Number 2 in my list would be the B-side to Sunny Afternoon. It's called I'm Not Like Everybody Else. And this is a lead vocal by Dave. And it's a garage proto-punk thrash garage band sound. Very menacing, all about non-conformity with a really thrashing guitar. A lot of garage and punk bands like this. It's been covered by a bunch of punk acts over the years, who I can't mention off the top of my head. I had a list somewhere, but I don't know which piece of paper it's on now. I've got show notes are like this. But yeah, very influential for the punks bands. A lot of punk bands love that song. I'm Not Like Everybody Else. Another one I absolutely adore, and I know my friend Mark D with a C loves it too, is the track This Time Tomorrow, which was on the Lola album. It's a beautiful song about the rigors of the music business and touring. Like many of Ray's songs, it's got a happy sound, but the message is weary and careworn. So it's a real mixture. He was really good at doing that. And you might have heard it if you ever saw a movie called The Darjeeling Limited, featured heavily on the soundtrack of
Yes,
that.
that's a great movie too.
So check This Time Tomorrow out. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Love it. Another one that was mentioned by some people earlier, and I know Courtney's going to love this, is Father Christmas.
Father Christmas, give me some money.
Yeah. So the Kinks Christmas single, and it's all about a bunch of poor kids beating up Santa because they just want the money. Father Christmas, give us the money. Don't mess around with those silly toys. We'll beat you up if you don't hand it over. We want your bread, so don't make us annoyed. Give all the toys to the little rich boys. It's great. It's punk. It's a punk song.
It's
Pure
a great
punk.
song.
Very punk. Played musically punk. There was a tiny clip of it in the opening montage. It's the second best Christmas song ever, next to Slade's "Merry Christmas, Everybody."
There was a debate. Remember the cover of who I said someone covered who will be the next in line.
Yeah.
It was Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, that's
and
right.
People debate that Queens of the Stone Age did a better version of it. No,
A little bit better, but you know. But yeah, Queens of the Stone Age. Thank you for reminding me because I know that
I had to look it up because I knew it was like I couldn't remember.
I know that the next song I'm going to talk about after this was covered by Pearl Jam amongst other bands. But I actually want to show myself because I love myself. I look great.
Love you too.
I have the single of Father Christmas, which I bought in 1977.
That better be in your will for me, but you'll never die.
Yeah, it's in plastic. I've got it in the sleeve.
We hope you'll never die. Never ever. You're like.
I love this so much. I spent my
present for
precious allowance buying this single. That's how much of a fan of the Kinks I was.
Was it more than 10 pounds?
I don't know at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
No, it was probably like £1 or something.
Why are
I
you
know it's worth more than 10 now.
I got to go back to say greetings to the wonderful WG. Good to see you, buddy. And he's quoting another one of my favorite songs. As I say, my brother had the single when I was a kid. I'm an ape man. I'm an ape man. No, I'm an ape man. I'm a King Kong man. I'm a voodoo man. Oh, I'm an ape man. I could do the rest, but you get the picture.
We believe you.
No, you don't. Another big hit single for them in Britain, anyway. Thank you, WG, for that $10 donation. Helps keeps the lights on. We got to give you a clip. Well, I could give you an audio clip. Hang on.
Oh, good going.
Hey, over here for donuts.
Don't listen to him, man. He's a hoser.
Hoser.
Is that from Strangeborough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's going pretty good. Good day, eh?
Good day.
Oh, see you, David.
So that you get an audio clip, WG, you're privileged because not many people get those. And it worked, which is even better. But thanks for that, buddy. I really appreciate it. You made a happy man very old. And yeah, so Darius, you agree with me that Slade's "Merry Christmas, Everybody" is the greatest rock Christmas song ever?
I do agree. I tend to not like most original rock and roll Christmas songs. I don't really know why, but I don't like most of them. But Slade is definitely they made my favorite, and this is probably my second favorite.
Yeah,
this is my favorite for sure.
Yeah.
I like the Waitresses too.
Oh, exactly. They're well up there. I love that kind of Christmas song, not the traditional ones. Somebody mentioned the McCartney one, which actually, cheesy as it is, I have a sneaky liking for.
Yeah.
It's cheesy.
I can't stand that one.
I know. No, most people can't, but over the years, I've grown to kind of like some of the subversive stuff in it. If you listen closely.
I really like the Christopher Lee Christmas metal album he put out.
Oh God, yeah, that's great. That is good. He made 2 metal albums, didn't he? At least 2.
Yeah, he made 2, but one of them was a Christmas one.
Yeah. I'd like to say that Commander Ed Straker has a viewpoint here that the Hanukkah song is the best Christmas song ever, and he's got a point. It is pretty good.
Oh my gosh, it also makes me think of the Lunch Lady song because that's all the same era.
Yeah, Roman, low spec Linux laptop, good to see you, but he says Roman of the Empire doesn't always listen to the Kinks, but when he does, so do his neighbors.
Yep, share it.
Share it out. Mark D with a C, we mentioned this time tomorrow. Well, you got it. You were here. Yeah, sorry. My producer isn't putting these chats up. One of my all-time favorite songs. That's why I mentioned it in my 5 special ones that everyone should hear.
Yeah.
There's some great chats. I'm sorry I've not kept up with all the comments, everybody. Christian Delorme for another $5. Thank you, sir. Forgot keeping the lights on. This is to keep the whiskey flowing. Well, you might get another. I'm going to have to play you another one of these clips.
Did our lawyer call you?
Yeah. I'm $10 is $10.
I rest my case. One more track, then, in my 5 special Kinks tracks that everyone should know. This one is the single Better Things, 1981 single on the album Give the People What They Want, written by Ray about his failing marriage. But it's an incredibly upbeat and positive song. The great catchy chorus and sing-along catchy chorus and some signature Dave guitar licks. Again, he writes a song about something really horrible and he makes it sound happy. It's incredible. How does he do that? You know? And it's such, you listen to it, it's such a positive song. There will be better things tomorrow. And this is the one that Pearl Jam and others have covered. And it's show and tell again. I have the single. I have the original single from 1981. Double gatefold sleeve, double single.
You have them all.
Look at that, a gatefold sleeve double single. I mean, come on.
That's amazing. For those that don't know, this is the whole reason that I even started like paying attention to Brian at all. Was his vinyl collection.
It's all I've got.
It is all you've done.
So that's yeah, that is a beautiful single. If you ever get the chance to listen to that, do it. Do it again, which is another great Kinks song. Do it again. Yeah, a great band, fantastic legacy. We skimmed the surface there, and within the constraints of YouTube, I think we did a great job because we at least played some stuff, and the montage was non-copyright, and there's some great stuff that I will post that separately, like I always do. And we have some non-Kinks news, but it's WG. He was an assistant at a hockey clinic run by Jason and Nick Robertson last Friday and Saturday, where you live.
Oh,
you
wow.
lucky beggar.
Wow.
God, could you not get me a signed jersey or something? I don't know. Thanks. WG, that's good to know. They're great guys, the Robertson brothers. Obviously, Nick playing for the Toronto Bay Leaves isn't quite as good, but you know. That was a SCTV joke I slipped in there.
I got it.
Yeah, the Toronto Bay Leaves. So, yeah, in the chat, we're probably going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. You just got time to post your favorite Kinks songs if you got the chance. I may have had a couple of other images, but God knows what I've done with them. I don't think I did too bad with the production today. Here's another cover which I love of a Kinks song. Just while I'm still in the cover mode, screen, and I have this single too. The Stranglers did a great cover of All Day and All of the Night, so check that out as well. Really, really respectful cover, beautiful cover. Yeah. I may have others, but I can't find them now. I'm lost. Yeah, so I think we've had a wonderful show given the amount of material that we skipped because there's so many songs, and the fact that we can't play a lot of music. David Bowie did a great Waterloo Sunset cover once, sang it live as well.
I've got Bowie right behind me.
Yeah,
of Bowie.
It's a weird beat-up heroic song at face value, and not new David Bowie heroes about him in the Berlin years, watching two friends destroy their marriages with an affair. Yeah, I mean, that one's also strangely uplifting though because of the music. It's a real skill to make difficult subjects but still an uplifting song, you know. That one is Heroes is one of the all-time greats. I mean, and I had something else to say about that, but it's gone. Yeah, Death of a Clown. Dave Davies sings vocal, brilliant song, extremely sad when you hear it. It's about a circus falling apart, you know. Great stuff.
Well,
Great show. Thank you, Roman. We've done it. We've had a
YouTubers,
lovely show.
have all been there.
Sorry, mate.
YouTubers have all been there. The circus falling apart.
Oh yeah. Yeah, thanks everyone. We've had a great crowd in here today. I was thinking it's going to be like me and two people, and not only have I had a wonderful panel. If I could get rid of this damn screen, there we go. Wonderful panel. We've had a most incredible chat. You've all put some fantastic chats in. Davina's listening to "Wish I Could Fly Like Superman," and that's great combination of funky disco beat with Dave's great Les Paul guitar in the background and
disco.
Well, it's got that funky bass line, you know. Superman.
Disco's a bad word in the rock crowd.
Bad word.
I like all music.
So before we head out, does anybody want to plug anything?
Well,
I think Walter likes to show that he got dressed up today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Very well dressed.
That was about it. Yeah.
Well, Granny and I would like to plug a few things, I'm sure, but we're definitely going to plug Thursday on the Rock and Roll Rowdies. I'll be setting that show up tonight.
You're going to continue.
So everyone is not aware, Rock and Roll Rowdies channel on YouTube. There's a live show every week at 1 p.m., which the guys are on and I host, and we do a variety of topics. Please subscribe to that channel and send those, more importantly, share those shows out, because we're trying to get more eyeballs on these great stories these guys do. We're going to do a round 2 of iconic venues this week, because we talked about some of the iconic venues these guys have worked at last week. So what do you think we're going to be talking about this week, Granny? Gnidrolog at the Royal Albert Hall?
Well, that deserves a program all in its own. Gnidrolog. It's one of these underlooked band things. We have to do a special on it. I'm determined to resurrect their career.
We'll do you and I are going to do a Gnidrolog special. That's true.
We should point out to people that it's not the learned intellectual rock historian debate on our thing. Ours is about being 3 rowdy guys seized an opportunity back in the 60s to become roadies and travel the world. So it's a little bit different take, but it's rock and roll.
It's all. They have great stories. Anyone who hasn't checked out or seen any of us, their interviews and stuff like that,
I think that theater in Upper Derby is the one that you like the most.
Tower. I saw the Ramones there. I've seen,
We've all been there.
Stones played
We've
there
all done that one
recently. Not recently, 20 years ago recently.
Yeah. So Davina's talking about the Budokan. Well, we'll talk more about that. We're going to talk about Circus Krona, and maybe a couple of the Rainbow. Roundhouse, the Warehouse in New Orleans is a good one, because I've actually been there. So a bunch of venues that are well known, and it's great because then you can talk about the bands you've seen and get the posters up, the bands you played there with or road managed for, and the bands you've seen there. So it's a very interesting show, everybody. Please check it out. We always have a good laugh. Yeah, Courtney, you got anything going on?
I finally have a place to live. It's not very decorated yet.
You've got a couch that matches your hair as well, which is really good.
No, actually, that's my bed. That's just a blanket. Oops, at the bottom. I keep forgetting I'm plugged in.
Right. Looks very comfortable.
The bed is very tall. My dog can actually jump up on it, which is amazing. But check this out. You guys will laugh at this. This room has half of the wall is
mirrors on
it's
the
like a hotel room.
Nice.
I don't know how I like looking at myself all the time when I'm laying in bed. If I turn that way, it's like
Courtney.
really
if I was you, I'd be looking at myself all day.
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
I think one of the hotels we stayed at in the 70s, there was mirrors on the ceiling.
Was there pink
Even
champagne
better.
on ice though?
Yeah.
My
Always.
friend had one of them. One of my girlfriends in LA, and I just remember waking up like all hungover when I went to visit her one weekend. We shared the bed, we're girls, and I just remember being like, "Oh my gosh, no!" Because I was hungover. It felt so weird waking up.
Yeah. So, John Das Wolfen, my friend, what have you got going on?
Well, tomorrow afternoon at 4 Central on my channel at Real Das Wolfen, I am doing part 3 of my Showa era Godzilla retrospective.
Oh yes, nice. Good for you, mate. These are good. I've watched the other stuff you did on those. Brilliant. Other videos, brilliant.
I never know about that. I mean, I have to check it
Yeah,
out.
I learned a lot because I don't really know much about that stuff. So it's good to know. I just know big monsters. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know the history. So thanks for that. And thanks for helping out today with some of the chats and stuff, mate. Appreciate it. See, unlike Darius, John has been able to make his management of this channel work.
Oh,
Darius is just not able to do it. He hasn't got the skills.
No, it glitches out whenever.
Yeah, the old story. Yeah.
I can understand and like totally relate because I have internet that works now. You guys remember I used to be in and out. You couldn't hear me. You couldn't.
Yeah.
It's probably better that way. But
Darius, are you doing anything soon on your channel?
Well, I don't have anything planned, but I just want to plug. My sound. It's not. There you go. Yeah, just plug all the stuff you got going on, and I did.
Continue.
Yeah. No. Check out comics division later tonight, I guess.
Oh yeah. Comics is good for a laugh. Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks to all of you for being here, and please everybody follow these guys on Twitter and YouTube and subscribe and all that good stuff.
X.
Rising float sinks all boats or something. I don't know.
Something like that.
As for me,
can I just mention one thing?
No, your time's up. You only had 30 seconds and you used it.
This is for that time that you couldn't hear me the whole half an hour. I will have I have a bunch of footage that needs to be uploaded into shorts. So I will have some more of like the Joan Jett performance clips and stuff like that.
Oh, that's what I was going to show. Hang on.
Oh, you're going to show it.
I got one more thing to show. Keep talking while I find
Oh,
it.
goodness.
Set it up.
This is me playing with a band backing me up. The consisted of Greg Hetson, who is in Bad Religion and Circle Jerks.
Oh, yeah.
We had Stan Lee from the Dickies, another guy from the Dickies, another guy from GI. I'll let you go on. I'm not going to sit here.
No, nice. Good stuff. Well, I look forward to seeing that stuff. I saw a bit of it.
Oh, I
With
thought
you
you were
singing.
showing the thing. Thank you for showing this instead.
No, you mentioned Joan Jett. I had all these
Thank
Kinks
you.
posters. Look at that. At the Greek.
Joan Jett.
That's near. That's the theatre that Granny lives behind. He sleeps in
I have a little shack just behind the letter K.
That's right. Yeah.
That's cool. That's a funny movie too. Get him to the Greek.
I had all these Kinks posters. We've never had a chance to show, but that doesn't matter. Yeah. No. I'm happy to show all your clips, Courtney. Next time.
I can drop a thing to my short in the chat if I can figure out how to do it.
Well, we'll give you 30 seconds to do that while I talk about what's coming up next for me. So tomorrow I will be on Toxic Tuesday. I think we're doing Lionheart.
Yep.
Tomorrow, yeah, Lionheart. I might be on Mead Radio as well. It depends on my timing. Thursday I'm going to be on with Roman of the Empire on his channel talking about one of the greatest movies for me, Dark City. I love that movie. So definitely doing that. Hey, Redshirt's here. Good to see you, buddy. And then, Thursday, Rock and Roll Rowdies. On next week's show, it's a return to the Canon Film Club.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the Dolph Lundgren movie. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yep.
I'm
looking
believe.
forward to it.
Yeah, we should have a lot of fun there. And I'll be on a bunch of other stuff here and there, so can't get rid of me.
Busy man.
Busy man. I wish I could. What's this?
She did it. She blowed up. She blowed up good. She really did it. She blowed up good. Blowed up real
Blowed
good.
up good. She
That's
blowed
right.
up real good.
So Courtney, did you drop it? You got it. Yeah, I see
dropped the
that.
link to my page, and then I just put, go to shorts. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
go
couldn't
to
remember.
Courtney and subscribe and look at her shorts. Everyone, Courtney's got the greatest shorts. They're very short,
wear
denim
shorts?
shorts.
Denim shorts. Yeah.
Right. Well, on that note, I would again like to thank this wonderful chat for all your support, for being here. It's been a blast. I'm still amazed that you wonderful people want to spend a couple of hours with me doing this. So, you've no idea how much that means to me. Thank you. You make the show what it is. Appreciate it very much. And we will see you all again very soon. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the week. And yeah, we'll catch up with you very shortly. Take care. Keep on rocking. I said play outro. Is it playing? No, it's not.
No.